Well, I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to start after that because I wasn't really prepared for that. I've obviously known David for years and years and years, and I certainly appreciate those kind of words, Dave. So when we get together, and by the way, many thanks to everybody who's contributed to this evening. When I walked in here earlier this afternoon and I saw the banners on the wall, I did envision really the extent of everything that was going to be presented tonight, and for that I'm very grateful. And, you know, when you get together like this, you renew a lot of old acquaintances, you meet some new people, and obviously I've had the opportunity to kind of bring back memories. And one thing that playing sports has done, you know, we all have our victories, we all have our losses, but we all have our memories. And this evening, there's been some fabulous memories that have been brought to me. And earlier on, I had the opportunity, I started back in 1963, I'm a Little League baseball player, and anybody who's been through Garrett went through the Little League baseball program. They always had the parents that, they always had the parents who would coach, and I'm 12 years old. And I was had an older brother, Dave, who was about 6 feet 4, and I'm 12 years old. I'm about 6 foot tall. I weigh about 160 pounds, and we're playing. And back then, you know, they had 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds that always played. And I'm 12 years old, and they don't think I should be pitching because they only throw from 46 feet. And when you're that big and kind of a man-child, you can throw the ball pretty hard. I don't know if I was all that accurate, but I could throw it pretty hard. And we were playing against an individual that he was a 9-year-old, and his name was Greg Shippey, and I didn't know much about him. But you know, I could stand up there and I could mow anybody down, and nobody intimidated me. And then all of a sudden, I get up against this guy, and I'm throwing as hard as I can. And instead of being scared and backing out, which they usually did, he just stood right there. And he turned on that ball a couple times, and thank God he hit that thing. Now, thank goodness it was foul. And I'm thinking, this is a 9-year-old, and he doesn't know that he's dealing with a 12-year-old. So I got to show this guy a little bit about respect. So here's so naturally, what do? I mean, you know, first of all, when I'm 12 and your mother tells you how wonderful you are, which, you know, my mother June, who you guys all know, always had this problem with her children. And believe me, you're never as good as your mother thinks you are, and I found this out shortly. However, at 12 years old, I didn't know this, and so my next pitch, I'm going, this guy's going to dig in, and I'm going to teach him just a little bit about what the game of competitive. So I turned back, I threw that ball as hard as I could, and I threw it right at him. Now, the kid's 9 years old, he's never seen this before, so instead of backing out, he turns around and looks right at me, and sure enough, that ball, boom, hits him right in the groin area. And I'm telling you, the loudest pop I have ever heard in my entire life. And all of a sudden the ball's rolling back to me on the ground, rolling right back to the pitcher's mound. He goes down like a rock. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I have really hurt this kid. You know, and then I'm feeling bad, he's down. I mean, I thought the poor kid died, but sure enough, he's down there and he's still moving. I think that's good. And I think, well, I wonder why that thing popped. And of course I realized then, he's the catcher, see? I'm thinking, you know, I bet that thing, I wonder if that thing broke that catcher's cup. I don't want to worry about him. I'm thinking about that. But sure enough, this kid gets up, all right, and he just kind of gets up and he kind of walks down to first base, and I looked over at him and I thought, man, I don't know who you are, where you're from, but you're somebody that you just earned my respect. So we moved into 1966, a couple of other great memories. I mean, 1966, you guys were in class. I'm a freshman in high school in 1966, right? I go out to the football team, like you know, go up, and of course the class of 1966, guys, I'm telling you what, the greatest class I think athletically in the history of Garrett High School, and I'm going to say that. Yeah. I walk onto the football field, I'm a freshman, and you got athletes like Buzzy Stewart, like my brother Dave Miller, you got Rick Lewis. I mean, you got people that basically, that football team that year was undefeated, untied, and unscored upon. And here's a great memory until the last ball game when we got beat at Hicksville. Okay? So I got this fellow, my freshman coach comes up to me. All right, now once again, you know, I'm a little out of line. You used the word unapproachable. I think that was very appropriate for you to say that to me. So, you know, we moved forward to 1967. And of all the times that I've been very fortunate, sports have done a lot for me. They've taken me places that a lot of people didn't get to go. I've been playing nationally, I've had a chance to play internationally, I've had a chance to play on the pro level. I've had good experiences and bad experiences. The most satisfying experience that I ever had was at Garrett High School, and this is going to astound you, but it was 1967, and it was the baseball team in 1967. Because I was a contributor on that baseball team, and I was a contributor along with several other people. People don't remember that as well because everything was basketball back then. We did phenomenally well in basketball, we did really well in football. But 1967, we had, I can tell you the starting line because I was a contributor. Denny Fegler, you guys played third base for us. Scott Bishop was our pitcher. Ronnie Culler was our catcher, and I wasn't the superstar on that team. But I was an integral part of a very, very successful program. And I can remember sometimes, you know, Scott, if you knew Scott did two things when he pitched, okay? He either struck him out, okay, or he walked him, all right? So what he would do, he'd strike one guy out, and then he'd walk three. You see? And then Benny Fegler is on third base, and I'm standing on short base, or shortstop, and I'm there at short base, okay? And we're thinking now, you know, the bases are loaded, there's like one out, and now all of a sudden we're on these old dirt infields, you know, and you know, and pretty soon they're going to strike a ball at us, and we're going to have to pick it up, we're going to have to turn a double player up and do something. And it's like a little stressful when the bases are always loaded. And when Scott pitched, the bases, every inning, were always loaded. But somehow, you know, he didn't hit a ground ball, and we'd hold our hands over our face and make sure that thing didn't catch us in the face, and we'd try to throw it out. We had some success. But I can remember a thing that I'll never forget. Denny Fedler played third base for us, and Scott and Denny and Ron, that was, I can tell you the storyline, but we were going to New Haven. We were playing, and we were undefeated. We were undefeated in the conference. And I'm pitching because Scott pitched against all the good teams, like Columbia, and then I had to throw all the rest of them because our coach was worried about him walking the bases full 7 times through. He beat all the good teams, and I have to pitch against New Haven, and they were undefeated that night. And all of a sudden, we're going into the last inning of this baseball game, and we're ahead 2-1, and it's the bottom of the 7th. And Denny Fedler, and you got to remember now, Denny was 2 years older than I was, and I came in, and you know, I kind of had that attitude that I needed to have changed, and I got to change. But at that point in time, you know, Denny and some other people kind of had a little bit about, you know, Miller, I don't really like this guy a lot, and probably rightfully so. But Denny came to me when they threw the ball around the infield on that last inning. He flipped that ball to me, and he looked at me and he said, you know, he says, if you've never pitched before, he says, please do it for all of us right now. Give it everything you got. And I thought, wow, what an experience that was. You know what I mean? And the great story is, yes, we ended up winning the baseball game. We won the conference tournament, okay, and won the conference. But of all the times that I played in all sports at all levels, I think that was the most satisfying that I've ever experienced. So we turned one more thing. I have to include a couple things. In 1966, I also had one other experience that I think is worth mentioning. Is that remember we had this individual who was Coach Capeman, okay, and Coach Capeman, for everybody who's been here tonight that had the opportunity to have Coach Capeman, you know, in your math class, or if you had the opportunity for Dick Capeman to, you know, to rip you some new ones and everything else. I don't think, the man I think was an outstanding coach, and that man could motivate you to walk and run through a wall. And the more he tried to motivate people like me, the more I tried to do. But if you can imagine if you were in football practice with him and you couldn't do anything right. I mean, you absolutely could not do anything right. And if you think now, my experience with that is the fact that I had him in math class, I had him in football for 2 years, and then I had the opportunity to date his daughter for 6 years. And if you think football practice was bad, you should see some of the lectures I got. Thank goodness what he was thinking might happen never happened, or I wouldn't be alive today. So anyways, now we push back on to 1969, and I want an opportunity to talk about a couple of individuals up here, because in 1969 we had it was a good season. We did okay in football, not as good as we should have. In basketball, we seemed to do okay, but not great. But Jeff Stroman came onto the scene in 1969, and he was a freshman. When Chuck was a senior, I was a freshman. I had the opportunity to learn from him. When I was a senior, Jeff was a freshman, and I could see that individual was going to do some miraculous things, okay, on the athletic field. So tonight is a celebration to Coach Hutton, who, by the way, was the first man that ever coached me that wasn't a parent. And I can remember, like yesterday, he goes, "You're going to coach your Pony League baseball team, and we're practicing every day at 8 o'clock in the morning." And I thought, man, this is great. I like this. I can't believe he's going to get up at 8 o'clock in the morning every day and practice. To Chuck Davis, who I believe was the greatest basketball player, and I think on the greatest basketball team that Garrett High School ever had. And to Jeff Stroman, who we talked about tonight, okay? Jeff Stroman was, we talked about he's being inducted in the Track Hall of Fame. Coach Hutton was talking about his football, and obviously he played basketball at Mississippi State University. Jeff, I think you're the greatest athlete that ever happened here at High School. Just in closing, and the game of basketball has done a lot of things for me. I've had the opportunities to go a lot of places, like I mentioned. It's been good to me. I've also been very pleased that I've been inducted in some other things, but tonight was a kind of a newfound thing for me. This is my home. This is our community. And I think tonight's a celebration. It's a celebration for the 4 of us who are here, but it's a celebration for all of us in the audience, but it's mostly a celebration of our community, our town, and our school, and I thank you very, very much. Thank you.